Cold is just hot in reverse. That is what we tell ourselves. Heat flows one way when something is warm, the other way when something is cold. A 5-degree drop is a 5-degree rise turned around. Same physics, same equation, same magnitude. Simple, clean, symmetric, and completely wrong about how it actually feels. If you have ever stepped into a hot shower and sighed, and then stepped into a cold shower and gasped like a man pulled from a frozen lake, you already know something is off. The hot one is a vacation. The cold one is an assault. And yet, by every honest reading of the physics, they are doing the same thing to your skin, just in opposite directions. So which is lying? The physics or the shower? Neither. They are both telling the truth, but they are telling two different truths. And the gap between those truths is one of the most interesting things in all of biology. Let me show you what I mean. Start with the easy part. Heat is motion. That is all it is. The atoms in your kitchen counter, the air in this room, the water coming out of your shower, every one of them is jiggling. Some jiggle fast, some jiggle slow. We call the fast ones hot. We call the slow ones cold. That is it. There is no such thing as cold. There is only less of the same thing. Put two things together, say your hand and a glass of water. If the water is jiggling harder than your hand, some of that motion transfers across. The water cools, your hand warms. If the water is jiggling slower than your hand, the motion goes the other way. Your hand cools, the water warms. A man named Newton wrote this down a few hundred years ago in a beautifully simple law. The rate at which heat moves between two things is proportional to how different their temperatures are. Twice the gap, twice the flow. Half the gap, half the flow. Nothing fancy. No special direction. The equation does not care if you are losing heat or gaining heat. It only cares about the difference. So if your skin is at, let us say, 93 degrees Fahrenheit, close to your core, but cooled a little by the air, and you step into water that is 104 degrees Fahrenheit, that is an 11-degree gap. The heat flows in. If you step into water that is 82 degrees Fahrenheit, that is also an 11-degree gap. The heat flows out. Same equation, same magnitude, just a different sign. And here is where you, sitting wherever you are, should feel completely confident. You have seen this. You have lived it. Temperature is a number on a thermometer. Numbers do not have feelings. A drop is a drop, a rise is a rise. The world should be symmetric. It is not even close. Try this experiment in your head. You walk into your bathroom, you turn the shower handle, the water comes out at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Lukewarm, pleasant enough. You stand there, feel nothing strong either way. Twist the handle further toward hot. The water climbs. 100, 103, 105. Past 110, your skin starts to complain. Around 115, you yank your hand back. Above 120, you burn. So the comfort zone going up from body temperature is what, 6, 7, maybe 10 degrees if you push it. A narrow little ribbon above your normal skin temperature. And then disaster. Go the other way. Turn the handle back through warm, through cool, into cold. 80 degrees. 70 degrees. 60. 50. At 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you are gasping. At 40, you can barely breathe. Below 35, sustained exposure will kill you in 20 minutes. But notice, the gap between body temperature and kills you on the cold side is enormous. 60 degrees, 70 degrees, depending on how you count. On the hot side, it is maybe 10 degrees before burns begin. So we have an asymmetric danger zone, a tiny burn zone above, a vast cold zone below. This already tells us something. The two directions are not equivalent in nature. But here is the puzzle. The cold zone is huge, you have lots of room, and yet a cold shower at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, where you are nowhere near death, feels far worse than a hot shower at 105 degrees, which is right at the edge of damage. Why? It gets worse for the symmetric theory. Take two waters. One is 7 degrees above your skin temperature. The other is 7 degrees below. Same gap. Same heat flow magnitude. According to Mr. Newton, your skin is being touched by the same equation with the sign flipped. Step into them, one at a time. The first feels warm and inviting. The second feels like a slap. The math is symmetric. The experience is not. So something between the math and the experience is rigging the game. And that something is sitting inside your skin, right now watching everything. The trick is this. Your skin is not a thermometer. A thermometer takes a temperature and reports it. Your skin takes a temperature and decides what to do about it. There is a vast, vast difference between those two jobs. Inside your skin, just below the surface, there are little nerve endings. Some of them are tuned to cold. Some of them are tuned to warmth. They are not the same nerves. They are not the same fibers. They are not even built the same way. The cold ones are called, in the textbooks, by various names, but the important fact is this. In most parts of your body, the cold receptors outnumber the warm receptors. Not by a little. By 3 to 1, sometimes by 5 to 1, in some places by 10 to 1. You have more cold detectors than warm detectors crammed under every square centimeter of you. Why? Why would evolution build a body with that lopsided arrangement? Because the body is not a thermometer. It is a survival machine. And losing heat will kill you faster than gaining a little heat. So nature built more alarms for the dangerous direction. It gets worse. The wires running back from those cold receptors to your brain are different from the wires running back from the warm receptors. The cold wires are fast. The warm wires are slow. So a cold signal hits your brain quicker than a warm signal does, even if the temperature change is the same magnitude. Imagine two telephone lines from the same village. One line is fiber optic. The other is a wet string. The cold message comes in by fiber. The warm message comes in by string. Same news, completely different urgency. And once those signals arrive in the brain, they trigger different responses. The cold signal can summon a whole emergency cascade. Sharp inhalation, racing heart, blood vessels slamming shut to keep the warmth near your core. The warm signal does not. The warm signal might make you sweat a little. It does not make you gasp. So the old symmetric idea is by now in ruins. The physics is symmetric. The biology is not. The biology has spent many millions of years getting good at one direction and casual about the other. But this leaves us with a deeper question. Why is the biology asymmetric? Why did evolution care so much more about cold than about heat? Think about what each direction means for a warm-blooded animal. Your body works at a very specific temperature. A few degrees above, your proteins start to misbehave. A few degrees below, your chemistry slows down and stops. You have a narrow operating window, and you must stay inside it. But here is the asymmetry in the danger. If you start to overheat, you have tools. You sweat. The sweat evaporates. Evaporation drinks up enormous amounts of energy as it goes, far more than you might think. You can dump heat by panting if you are a dog, by sweating if you are a person, by flapping big ears if you are an elephant. Heat is excitable. Cold is not. Once you start to lose heat faster than you can make it, you have very little to do about it. You can shiver, which generates a small amount of warmth. You can curl up to reduce your surface area. You can clamp the blood vessels in your hands and feet to keep the core warm at the expense of the extremities. But you cannot manufacture heat the way you can dump heat. The furnace inside you, burning sugar, has a top speed. And below a certain temperature, that top speed is not enough. So the dangers are not symmetric, even in the body's response toolkit. Overheating has exits. Cold is only the inside of a furnace that can only run so hot. Evolution noticed. Or rather, evolution did not notice anything, because evolution does not notice. But the animals whose nervous system screamed louder at cold survived more winters. The animals whose nervous systems were calm about cold went to sleep in the snow and never woke up. After a million generations of that, you get a nervous system that hates cold with a kind of religious panic, and merely complains about heat. That is why a cold shower hurts. The pain is not in the water. The pain is in the alarm. The alarm was installed because there was a time when a warm-blooded animal stepping into cold water might never have stepped out again. Now I want to show you the cleanest proof I know that the receptors are doing the work, not the temperature. Take a leaf of mint. Crush it. Rub it on your skin. Your skin feels cold, but the leaf is not cold. The temperature of your skin has not dropped a single fraction of a degree. Yet you feel cold. Why? Because the active chemical in menthol walks up to the cold receptors in your skin and tickles them. The receptors fire as if the temperature had dropped. The brain receives the signal and reports cold. The temperature is unchanged. The sensation is fictional in a sense, but completely real to you. Now take a chili pepper. The hot chemical in it, capsaicin, walks up to the warm receptors, the ones that fire near the burning point, and it tickles them. They fire as if your skin were on fire. The temperature of your mouth is exactly what it was a moment ago, but your mouth feels like you swallowed a coal. This is the cleanest proof you can possibly imagine that your sensation of hot and cold is not about temperature at all. It is about which receptors are firing. The receptors are the verdict. The thermometer is just one of several things that can summon the verdict. Menthol can summon it. Capsaicin can summon it. Actual heat or cold can summon it. Your brain does not know the difference, because at the level of brain signals there is no difference. And the asymmetry between cold and hot is not just in how many receptors there are. It is also in what triggers them. The warm-hot receptors only fire at temperatures that genuinely threaten tissue. The cold receptors fire at temperatures that are merely lower than they should be. Temperatures that pose no immediate damage at all. The cold alarm is wired with a hair trigger. The hot alarm is wired only for actual emergencies. There is one more piece, and it makes the asymmetry even sharper. Air and water are not the same when it comes to moving heat around. A room at 60 degrees Fahrenheit feels chilly but tolerable. A swimming pool at 60 degrees Fahrenheit will, given enough time, kill you. Why? Water carries heat away from your skin maybe 25 times faster than air does. The exact number depends on how you measure, but the order of magnitude is right. Water has a higher thermal conductivity, and on top of that it has a much higher heat capacity, meaning it can soak up a lot of energy without warming up much itself. So when you stand in front of a fan blowing 60-degree air, the air against your skin warms up a little. You warm it up. It drifts away, more cool air comes in. There is a slow exchange. Your skin loses heat at a moderate rate. When you stand in a 60-degree shower, the water against your skin warms up not at all, because there is a continuous flood of fresh cold water pouring over you. Your skin is in contact with an infinite reservoir of cold, and that reservoir is 25 times better at stealing your warmth than air is. So when you step into a cold shower, you are not just experiencing a temperature difference. You are experiencing a temperature difference multiplied by water's superior heat-stealing ability. The alarm system inside your skin is not just shouting. It is shouting through a megaphone. This is also why a hot shower works at a much milder temperature than a sauna. A sauna might be 180 degrees Fahrenheit of air. A shower at 180 would scald you to death. The water moves heat in just as effectively as it moves heat out. Above body temperature, the heat is being delivered into you 25 times faster than the air would deliver it. So the safe zone for a hot shower is much, much narrower than the safe zone for a hot room. Now let us put all this together into one moment. The moment your foot hits the cold shower, in the first second the cold receptors in your skin fire all at once. Not because the heat flow is harming you. It is not yet, not for many minutes. They fire because they are calibrated to fire at the slightest hint of trouble, and a sudden drop is the kind of hint they were built to catch. The signal races up the fast nerve fibers and arrives at your brainstem before you have time to think. Before you, your conscious mind is still figuring out that the water is on. The brainstem has already issued orders. The first order is to your lungs. Inhale. A big one. This is called the gasp reflex. It is involuntary. You can fight it, but you cannot prevent it. Your diaphragm pulls down, your chest expands, your lungs fill. Why? Because if this cold news means you are about to die, your body wants oxygen in the tank. The second order is to your blood vessels. Squeeze, constrict, pull the warm blood out of the skin and back into the core where the organs are. Your fingers and toes go pale. The skin temperature drops. You are now visibly responding before you have even agreed to be in this shower. The third order is to your heart. Pump faster. The cold has shocked the system. The blood vessels are tighter. The heart has to push harder against narrower pipes. Your pulse jumps. All of this, gasp, clamp, pump, is what people in the cold water literature call the cold shock response. It is real. It is measurable. It is the reason cold water immersion is genuinely dangerous in the first minute, even before hypothermia has had any chance to begin. People drown in cold water not from cold, but from the gasp reflex pulling water into their lungs. Compare this to stepping into a hot shower. The warm receptors trickle a signal up the slow nerves. The brain notes the change. Maybe you sigh. Your blood vessels open up to bring warmth to the skin so you can dump some of the heat. Your pulse barely budges. No gasp, no clamp, no pump. Same physics. Heat flowing in both cases. Same magnitude even if you set up the temperatures carefully. But the system inside you treats one as a luxury and the other as a near-death event. Here is the part I love. Stay in that cold shower long enough, and people do this on purpose now for various reasons we will not get into, and after about a minute, the alarm starts to ease. The gasp passes. The breathing settles. The body realizes you are not dying. The cold receptors keep firing, but the brain stops treating the firing as an emergency. It starts treating it as a steady fact about the world. That is when, some people claim, the cold becomes pleasant. The alarm has been overruled by experience. The thermometer says the water is still cold. The receptors are still shouting, but the brain has decided, on the strength of 1 minute of evidence, that we are going to live after all. This tells us something deep. The pain of cold is not the heat flow. The pain of cold is the prediction your body makes about where that heat flow is leading. And predictions can be wrong. They can be talked out of. They can be retrained. A thermometer cannot do this. A thermometer reads what it reads. But you are not a thermometer. You are an animal that learned, somewhere along